Donald Trump's war with Iran was successful at anything, it was changing the national discussion at the time away from the Jeffrey Epstein files. Now, none other than the First Lady is bringing the issue back to the forefront with a very rare public statement this week denying that any close relationship with the convicted child sex offender and his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell.
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell.
That statement not only caught many White House staffers off guard, according to a White House official, but President Trump told me he wasn't aware that his wife was going to make such remarks on that topic. Though, in a new interview yesterday with the New York Times, Trump claimed that he knew Melania wanted to speak about Epstein at some point and, quote, thought she had a right to talk about it. Nearly 2 days later, while there's still a lot of speculation, we still do not have a clear idea why the First Lady decided to make her statement now, or why she felt that it was the time to call on Congress to hold a public hearing for Epstein survivors, especially as her husband has repeatedly called the Epstein controversy a Democratic hoax and asked the country to move on. Joining us now is Stephanie Grisham, former chief of staff and press secretary for Melania Trump during the first administration. She's the author of I'll Take Your Questions Now, What I Saw at the Trump White House. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today. You really are the perfect guest during a time where we still don't have that much information. As you worked very closely with the First Lady for, I believe it was 4 years, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us about what it takes to get her to go out there and not just email out a statement, but make an on-camera appearance like the one that we saw this week?
Absolutely. Good morning to you guys. Thanks for having me on. It's funny because there were many times when we would want her to respond to something as a team, or me as her communications person would want her to respond to false allegations or rumors or whatnot. And most of the time she would say, don't reply. Most of the time she wanted to stay quiet. So I was just as surprised as I think the whole country and maybe the world when, she stepped out and did this press conference of sorts a couple of days ago. It was something she clearly wanted to do. It was something that must have been weighing on her for a while. I've been asked, of course, a million times, why do I think she did it? And my two thoughts are she's trying to get ahead of something, or she just saw something, online or on X, and that was the last straw. And she got upset and decided that the story was kind of everywhere in her mind, and she wanted to do this.
Stephanie, the Epstein investigation, the debacle, all of it is going to be a part of Donald Trump's legacy, right? What did and didn't get released, what he did and didn't know, his relationship with Epstein. And to your point about her thinking something might be coming or something like that, when you worked for her, how focused is she on herself, her own legacy and brand, separate from her husband, making sure that she has a legacy that she has a hand in creating?
Oh, I mean, absolutely 100% that is her focus. I would say, aside from being a mom, that would be what she worried about, was, again, her brand, her reputation, separate from her husband, separate from anything that the West Wing would do. When I was in the East Wing, we never gave the West Wing a heads up on anything we were going to do. I've got to say, it was kind of an empowering thing. It was the first time in history I think that's ever been done. We did not check with the West Wing. We never told the West Wing anything. And I see she's doing the same thing. When she feels really strongly about something, she decides to speak out, and that has nothing to do with how it will reflect on her husband politically or otherwise, or the West Wing. So she's always been that way, very strong, very independent. And if somebody is saying something about her that she, feels is untrue, knows to be untrue, you better believe she'll speak out, and everybody else just watch out. It doesn't matter.
As we all know, Jackie had her conversation with the president, but so did the New York Times yesterday. And I want to read what the president said in this interview. Was he upset that Melania had single-handedly thrust this story that had so bedeviled him back onto front pages around the globe? No, he said. I never get upset. Stephanie, do you believe that for 1 minute?
Oh, well, I'm laughing. Thank you for the laughter this morning. No, when he first said he knew nothing about it, I called BS publicly. And then, of course, now he's saying he knew about it, that there's not a chance he's not upset by all of this coverage and that it has thrust things back out into the forefront. And I have to say, no matter her motivation, I am glad she did this. The victims of Epstein have been so poorly treated by this administration, specifically the Department of Justice, which I laugh when I say justice when we're talking about the Epstein files, and then the Republican leadership in Congress, many Republicans in Congress. So I'm glad she has done this. I understand some of the survivors, feel that she has put them in a bad spot. But, at least it's being talked about again. People are being reminded of it again. So despite Melania Trump's motivations, not knowing what they are, I say kudos to her for doing this. That was really a strong move.
Stephanie Grisham, thank you very much for coming to The Weekend.